You're listening to the Bird Dog Babe podcast with my mom, Courtney Bastian.
The AKC Canine Health Foundation is such a unique organization in that we provide a seat at the table for dog breeders, dog owners, the parent clubs, the researchers, the veterinarians, the conference, the every other year conference specifically, but in everything we do, it's such a unique opportunity for these people that are all working for the betterment of dogs to sit at the table together and work together, because we can't do it without the other pieces of the pie.
Hey bird dog babes, my name is Courtney Bastian and I am obsessed with all things bird dogs. And I'm here with you to share the stories, experiences, knowledge, and opinions from the women and a few guys in the industry that are killing it. I'm a Wisconsin girl living in a Montana world. I'm mom and two incredible kiddos, wife and occasional assistant to a pro gun dog trainer, traveling the U.S. talking about canine nutrition while hunting, breeding, and competing with my German wire hair pointers and Bracco Italianos. As someone who started hunting later in life because I wanted to give my dogs the opportunity to do what they were bred to do, I'm here to help inspire, educate, and connect women to get their bird dogs out in the field and experience a bond like no other. So pour yourself a glass of wine and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you attended the Montana Pheasants Forever Women, Wine, and Wild Game event in August, you've already received my email about getting together for a hunt next Thursday, November 19th. This isn't a typical women's organized hunt. This is the real deal. We're going to hunt wild birds on public land, so pheasant, ducks, and huns are all a possibility. But like all wild bird hunting, there's no guarantee of getting into birds. As we continue putting together a Women's Montana Pheasants Forever chapter, these are great opportunities for us to get together and have fun chasing birds with our dogs. If you live in Montana and want to join in on our efforts and fun, send me an email and I'll forward you the info. The AKC Canine Health Foundation is the largest nonprofit funder of health research focused solely on dogs. If you're one of my Patreon patrons, a portion of your $5 per month goes towards the AKC CHF. A lot of us that hunt also support the conservation and education efforts of different organizations working hard to ensure habitat and that species for the future. Well, the AKC Canine Health Foundation focuses on education, research, and advancing the health of our dogs, and we need to be supporting this organization. Dr. Sharon Albright is the Manager of Communications and Veterinary Outreach for the AKC Canine Health Foundation. Sharon joins me on this episode to discuss what the AKC CHF is all about, some of the amazing advancements and breakthroughs from the research they've been able to help organize and fund to help improve the lives of our dogs. We focus on 3 of the main issues in our bird dog breeds, which are Hemangiosarcoma, Epilepsy, and Tick-borne Diseases. I've partnered with AKC Canine Health Foundation to help fundraise for these 3 initiatives. I'll be mailing out one of their calendars to each person that donates. You decide the amount. Head over to www.akcchf.org/birddogbabe. The link and info will also be included in the show notes, my website, and social media pages. So come on, Bird Dog Babe community. Let's help this amazing foundation get closer to answers of these issues that are affecting our bird dogs. All right, let's get after it. Thank you to sponsor Dakota 283, unparalleled protection for traveling to and from your favorite hunting spot. Dakota 283 kennels are premium quality rotomold with recessed handles on top for convenient and safe tie down and makes it easy to lift up into the truck. I love the secure door frame with high security locks so I know my dogs are safe when I need to stop for fuel. An added bonus is the drain hole in the back, which makes cleaning a breeze when your dog has been run hard and put away wet. Head over to Dakota283.com and use promo code BIRDDOGBABE for a 10% discount. Thanks to sponsor Excel Shooting Sports, elite dealer of Caesar Guarini, Fab Arm, and Siren shotguns. Siren is the world's only full line of shotguns created for the female competitor, hunter, and shotgun enthusiast. Excel is one of only 4 demo centers west of the Mississippi. They give you the opportunity to actually try out a gun before you walk out the door with it. As an elite dealer for Cesar Guarini, Excel offers their customers unlimited pit stops of free service and tune-ups on all shotguns. A great way to have your gun in top condition for the upcoming hunting or target season. In addition, they're offering an exclusive deal to all of the Bird Dog Babe listeners for a free gun slip with each purchase, a $90 value. Good morning, Sharon, and welcome to the Bird Dog Babe podcast. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. It's great to be here.
I'm looking forward to having this conversation today because the AKC Canine Health Foundation is something that has been near and dear to my heart for the last couple years, and our topics today certainly are. So if you wouldn't mind starting us off with, tell us a little bit about what the AKC Canine Health Foundation is.
Absolutely. The AKC Canine Health Foundation was founded by the American Kennel Club in 1995 as an independent nonprofit with the goal of advancing the health of all dogs and their owners by funding scientific research and sharing health information to prevent, treat, and cure canine disease. So since that time, we've awarded more than $5.8 million in funding to over 1,000 research and education grants and canine health programs. We've provided funding for 10 theriogenology residencies, which is the specialty of reproductive health in animals. We've provided funding for more than 30 young researchers through our Clinician Scientist Fellowship Program as a way to support and develop young researchers new into the field. And we fund research in 23 different what we call research program areas, which really just cover the dog from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, learning more about cardiology, dermatology, hormonal diseases, musculoskeletal diseases, and more.
What are some of the, I would say, biggest breakthroughs that you guys have had since you started that our listeners in the bird dog community would be able to recognize?
Sure. The foundation was founded right around the time that genetic technology and genetic mapping was really taking off. So we were really pivotal in completing the genome map for dogs. So that was probably a really big accomplishment, not done alone, but really helped spur that so that we could have the DNA sequence of the dog and begin to look for these genetic mutations underlying a lot of diseases. So that's been the most exciting and rapidly changing technology. It's helped us with exercise-induced collapse in Labradors and numerous other diseases. So a lot of the genetic testing that can help breeders and dog owners produce healthier dogs, and a lot of the sort of bench research as well, just really looking at new drugs, understanding a lot of the tick-borne diseases. There's been a lot of excitement there as we learn more about these, the ticks and the diseases they transmit and how they contribute to lots of other pathologies in dogs. And some interesting research, I think, on behavior. And we have funded the 9/11 medical surveillance study, which followed search and rescue dogs that were deployed to the sites following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and comparing the behavior and medical health of those dogs to search and rescue dogs that weren't deployed to those sites. And some really interesting data has come out of that, in that probably the biggest thing was that dogs have not been susceptible to a lot of the respiratory diseases that the human first responders were. So it gives us information on how to keep our search and rescue dogs healthy, and also compare that to human health and what can we learn to maybe better protect our human first responders.
Right. Boy, that's really interesting. Are you finding that there is quite a bit of relationship between canine and humans as far as what we're studying on the canine side and research can go hand in hand with that on the human side?
Absolutely. So we have a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities as well. And we're finding, thankfully, both human medicine and veterinary medicine that we can make greater and faster progress when we work together.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason, dogs are a wonderful place to start because they live in our homes. They share our water supply. They have the same environmental exposures. They have a similar lifestyle to us. So there's a lot of similarities there. And particularly in cancer research, we're finding that even down to the genetic and the molecular level, a lot of our cancers are the same. Not all, but a lot of them. So again, what we can learn in one species can help both species. So that's really exciting and just, again, gives us a jump start to more efficiently make some discoveries that can help all of us.
Tell us a little bit about what you do there at the Canine Health Foundation and your personal interest and how that ties into what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm really lucky to work at the AKC Canine Health Foundation. My title is the Manager of Communications and Veterinary Outreach, and really I get the job of translating the science for our donors and supporters and the veterinarians that will put this information into use in the clinic, and the dog owners and the breeders that will put this information into use to breed better dogs and have healthier dogs. So really just translating the science, which I get to read it all and learn it all. It's great. And then teaching is really a passion of mine. So I really enjoy sharing that information and helping other people understand it. And so I appreciate the opportunity to reach the bird dog babe audience here today to do just that. So it's great. It's a nice one foot in the research area and 1 foot in the clinic as well, just to help bridge, get this information into the hands of the people that can use it so we can keep our dogs healthier.
Right.
And personally, I'm a veterinarian. I practiced in small animal primary care for about 15 years before I moved into the nonprofit industry. I have golden retrievers, has been my breed as an adult, and I enjoy training and competing them in obedience as well as retriever hunt tests. So I don't get to do the upland work that a lot of you bird dogs do, but I really enjoy the waterfowl aspect, and just a day outside with the dogs is where I like to be. So
awesome. Yeah. The nice thing I like about the Canine Health Foundation is how closely you guys work with breeders and with veterinary clinics, and especially with our national parent clubs, because every other year you invite in, is it 1 or 2 representatives from each national club?
It's not set in stone. We invite all of the clubs, and we've had a variety of, send who you can.
Yeah. But it's a great opportunity for those, I guess, reps from the national clubs to be able to go back and share that with the rest of the membership and kind of what research is happening and what we can do as club members to help the breed in general. And I think that's a important part of being involved in your national parent club in general. If you own a German short hair pointer, to join the National German Short Hair Pointer Club of America, because they're the ones that are helping making advances in the breeds. So yeah,
absolutely. We rely heavily on the AKC parent clubs, and repeatedly, whether I'm talking to researchers or breeders or dog club members, the AKC Canine Health Foundation is such a unique organization in that we provide a seat at the table for dog breeders, dog owners, the parent clubs, the researchers, the veterinarians, the conference, the every other year conference specifically, but in everything we do, it's such a unique opportunity for these people that are all working for the betterment of dogs to sit at the table together and work together, because we can't do it without the other pieces of the pie, so the breed clubs are wonderful in letting us know what their problems are, what the pain points are for the health of their breed, and they can get the information directly from the researchers, and they don't have to rely on Dr. Google or other sources.
Right.
They can interact and get a little bit of feedback, and then absolutely share it with the full membership of their club, to really elevate the science and the healthcare for our dogs that we love so much. So.
Right. So can you touch a little bit on the process of, so I have Bracco Italianos, and they're a rare breed, And one of the issues that has been discovered with this breed is the kidney amyloidosis issue. Are you familiar with what that is?
Mm-hmm.
It's very common in Shar-Peis as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when our rare breeds have these issues, what kind of steps can we start to get help with this? Is that something we can reach out to the Canine Health Foundation for and start getting DNA samples? What do you suggest?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple strategies and a couple steps that you can take depending on what sort of information you have and how rapidly you want to proceed. Sometimes the first best step is to work with the Orthopedic Foundation for America or for animals and do a health survey of your breed owners. You know, how common is this problem? Is it in males versus females? And you know, there's no central database of veterinary medical diagnoses in the United States. So really just polling your membership and just is a great way to get just baseline information on how common the problem is and maybe, again, what age, what sex it's common in. And absolutely submitting DNA samples is really helpful. The AKC Canine Health Foundation also worked with the OFA to set up the Canine Health Information Center, which is called CHIC, C-H-I-C, and it's twofold benefits. One, it is just a DNA database, and that DNA is paired with health data. So not only do they have a DNA sample from your Bracco Italiano, but you can update it to say that he had this diagnosis and then that diagnosis over time, so that the samples are ready, sitting right there for a researcher. Because before that resource existed, you know, if I as a scientist wanted to research amyloidosis, I would have to go out and recruit all these dogs to donate samples and get all that information. And that's a lot of legwork. So if you can have that information and those DNA samples already housed in with the OFA, it just really, the scientists can get right down to the laboratory work, digging into it. So that's really wonderful. And then absolutely, as a parent club, you can give us a call at the AKC Canine Health Foundation, talk about your concerns. We can help identify an appropriate researcher that could be working on that problem. And then it's nice because sometimes when you mentioned that it's also common in Shar-Peis, you know, we often have grants that are supported by multiple breed clubs. You know, let's work together. Whereas the Bracco Italiano Club might not be able to fund a full study on their own, but if they work together with other breed clubs for breeds that are also affected by that disease, again, pooling resources can really be helpful. So the AKC Canine Health Foundation can help you identify those sort of resources, the right researchers, make sure you've got, you know, encourage you to use samples at OFA, and then just move forward like that.
Okay. And so I'm the chair for the health committee for the Braccos. And so when I'm coming up with that survey that you recommended to ask the right questions of the membership, would you guys be helping me with that? Of what OFA, exactly you guys need?
The OFA has wonderful resources. So yeah, I'd probably direct you to them.
Okay.
And we can find that on their website.
Okay. What about the difference? So I know with the Braccos that it is to get a CHIC number, you do have to submit the DNA. That is a requirement in order to do it. But what is the difference between sending in a cheek swab or blood sample?
Sure, you can get DNA from both of those, but you get more and higher quality DNA from a blood sample.
Okay.
So, you know, it can depend on what the researcher is looking for, but when given the option as a veterinarian and as a scientist, a blood sample is going to give you much higher quality and much higher yield.
So let's get into our topics today. So I know you guys are doing a ton of research in so many different areas, but I wanted to focus today on hemangiosarcoma, which is a cancer, canine cancer, tick-borne disease, and epilepsy. And these three hit pretty close to home for me. I've had dogs affected with each of them. But could you give us a kind of breakdown of the hemangiosarcoma initiative that you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So like I said, the AKC Canine Health Foundation funds research in all different health areas of the dog, but these 3 areas are designated research initiatives, which allow us to focus funding and research on these problems that really remain significant to a lot of dog breeds. And hemangiosarcoma specifically is cancer of the cells that line blood vessels, and it can affect any dog, any breed, any size, any age. And it's usually hidden, like it can grow, because again, there's blood vessels are just inside the body. So it can often grow quite large until it's just reaches critical factor. So it's quite a devastating disease. It will often affect the spleen or the heart, which again are internal organs. So you're not going to see that lump on the skin or anything different until it's quite large and quite problematic. Dogs can get hemangiosarcoma on the skin, so that you might see. That's, again, not as aggressive because you can see it and remove it earlier in development. But since our founding in 1995, the AKC Canine Health Foundation has awarded almost $4 million and about 27 research grants to study this disease. We currently have some projects going on with the Shine On project at the University of Minnesota. Is an exciting and long-term project. They developed a novel drug at the University of Minnesota that can kill the early hemangiosarcoma cells. And they've also developed a test for those early hemangiosarcoma cells. So the latest phase of that is taking those dogs that tested at high risk of developing it and giving them this drug as a preventive to see if we can really make a difference, not only treating it once it's diagnosed, but taking the dogs that are at high risk, preventing them from reaching that critical clinical disease. So that's really exciting. There have been great results. I know it's going to be a while till it comes, to the shelf near you, but really promising work there.
Right. But with hemangiosarcoma, is it not normally detected when it's already in a very late stage of dogs?
Correct. Because again, usually it's happening inside the dog. There's not a lump or anything that you can feel or see, and the dog can often feel quite normal until, because it is a tumor of blood vessel cells, it can cause bleeding. So they may have little small bleeding incidents where they just feel less than perfect for a few days, but then it stops and they feel great. But at some point it'll reach a critical point and they'll have a critical bleed that can be life-threatening. And unfortunately, the owner may or may not have had much notice that was developing. So that's what makes this such a nasty disease.
And with that, so I know when my dog was diagnosed with it last year, it was at the end of September. And then I was at the Golden Retriever National when I had talked to somebody that was there from Canine Health Foundation about it. And she mentioned this study, but she had said, I think with a lot of these research projects that there shouldn't have been, because I had already started supplementing her, putting her on different medications, and that was something important to note, and especially for listeners, if they have a dog that is diagnosed with it, to not make changes, because isn't it important to your research that the blood is kind of untouched so you guys can, utilize it better?
Sure. So that's an important point, and it depends is the frustrating but true answer. So absolutely, if we're going to try and test a new treatment, you may or may not be able to have already started existing or known treatments. So in some studies, we're also funding a clinical trial of a drug called propranolol, which we use to treat arrhythmias in dogs and people with heart disease. But they found that it can sensitize hemangiosarcoma cells to a common chemotherapy drug. So the clinical trials to test those two in concert. So it may or may not, right? So that's where it's helpful. And unfortunately, this disease, you have to act fast. But if you can have that knowledge in the back of your head or have a plan and be nearby or ask your veterinarian at the time, are you aware of any clinical trials that we can get on board with? Absolutely. Then if you can have that information ahead of time, you may be able to jump in with an experimental treatment, or you may be able to start traditional treatment and then still follow up. It just depends. So I wouldn't delay treatment, right? But sometimes even just with a day or two, you can get that information. And it just depends on the study and what they're looking for.
Okay. And you had mentioned like early cells for hemangiosarcoma. How would we know if our dogs might be like a preempt to the cancer, to be able to test for that?
Yeah, how do they have them? So we don't know. That's what they're working on. They have developed a test, but it's not clinically available yet. It hasn't been proven. Again, they're just working on that research to see what is, the level of those cells, how many dogs definitely go on to develop disease versus not. So it's an exciting prospect, but it's just not refined enough to bring it to the clinic yet. But absolutely, that would be helpful because, a lot of people with hemangiosarcoma ask about, well, can I just do an ultrasound, twice a year to look at my dog's spleen and look at my dog's heart? Right. And we've just found that it can happen so quick. You could do that, and 2 weeks after your normal ultrasound, your dog can have a critical tumor. So that's the frustrating. Yeah, it's hard to tell how long it takes to develop, how long it takes to reach that critical clinical point. So we just don't have a reliable screening test for hemangiosarcoma at this point in time.
Okay. Are you finding any relationships being familial, that there would be a genetic correlation between them?
So it certainly appears so, because while this tumor can affect all dogs, we do tend to see it more in certain breeds. And we have funded some studies looking at the genetics of it, and they're narrowing it down, looking for that genetic mutation or, genetic code that's associated with these tumors is looking for a needle in a haystack. And we've gone from a hay field to a haystack, but still have a lot longer to go until we find that needle. So we are doing some studies, but again, still not a reliable single test to know who's at risk for it.
And is it just me, or why does it seem like it is a common issue in the different bird dog breeds? Or is it just because that's what I'm around most, so I'm noticing it?
Yeah, that's, again, subjectively, it is more common in our larger breeds. Okay. But we can see it in small breeds as well. And I'm not going to remember exactly, but they have done studies looking at the chance of it being malignant in large breeds versus small breeds. And I'm not going to remember the exact statistics right now, but you can Google that and we can look for that, because they have looked at that. So yes, subjectively, but no hardcore data to say why. Okay.
So that's called the Shine On Project, and that's at the University of
Minnesota.
Okay. So if our dogs would get that diagnosis, we just contact them directly at the University of Minnesota?
You can. Most universities do have a searchable website that will link you to ongoing clinical trials. So you can search by disease or breed and see what's going on, or what opportunities you have to participate. And we at the AKC Canine Health Foundation also maintain that as a searchable database on our website. So on a lot of the pages, you'll see a link to participate in research. And that, again, will take you to a searchable database. You can look by breed or by disease and see what studies we are funding at that moment that are actively recruiting patients. Then, depending on the disease and what the requirements are for the study, sometimes you have to visit the university, specifically for testing and screening. Sometimes it's just sending in a DNA sample or filling out a survey. So it really just depends on the disease and the specific study, but there's lots of ways to participate. So again, I know when you're faced with a health crisis with your dog, it's one more thing to think about, but there are ways that you can look that up and see, how can I contribute or participate, or again, potentially try participate in a clinical trial that might help my dog.
Right. The future of the breed.
Absolutely.
So let's get into the Tick-borne initiative. Those creepy, ticks. Crawly little gross things that they just feel like you can't get them pulled out, right?
Yes. Well, I don't like it as a human being, but certainly for our dog health, these darn ticks and the diseases that they spread. Because of climate change and just how mobile we are as humans now, the geographical range that these ticks cover is spreading, and we're finding new tick species and we're finding new diseases carried by these ticks all the time. So this is still just an evolving field of study to get ahead of this. And we're learning more and more about the importance of what we call co-infection, which means that if you have Lyme disease, the Borrelia bacteria, you probably also have these 1 or 2 or 4 other bacteria in there as well. So it's rare that a tick will just inject one disease-causing bacteria into an animal. So that's important because, again, you have these multiple organisms that your immune system is trying to fight off, and then that can affect the immune system function in general. And it really, we're learning how important it is to understand that interplay and that interaction. So the AKC Canine Health Foundation has invested more than $750,000 in studying these diseases. Again, using new genetic technology to test for new diseases that we maybe aren't aware of, try and get some rapid and inexpensive testing available, and then how common these diseases are so that we can have a handle on where we should be looking for them. And, so your veterinarian can know, depending on where you live and where your dog has traveled, which of these infections they should have on their checklist to rule out or rule in. And another interesting kind of leaning back to the Hemangiosarcoma initiative as well is there is a bacteria called Bartonella that has been well studied locally to me at North Carolina State University, and they found that 74% of dogs with Hemangiosarcoma had the DNA of this bacteria in their tissues, tumor and normal tissues. And this bacteria can stimulate inflammation and stimulate blood vessel growth. So is there an association there? There's definitely an association, but could this bacterial infection be one of the triggers or one of the inciting factors for Hemangiosarcoma? So they're making some really great strides. It's a challenging bacteria because it normally lives inside cells. So the researchers at NC State are developing some great tests to more accurately and definitively find that intracellular bacteria.
Boy,
and lots
incredible.
of others as well. Yeah, so it's just, again, we're learning how these, maybe you want to call it just an infection, but it's not just an infection because it influences the immune system, it influences blood vessels, and really can be a trigger for what we would call immune-mediated disease or immune system dysfunction, and even cancers as well. So really important to keep learning what we can about the diseases themselves, the ticks that carry them, and for our sporting dogs, tick prevention, again, should much easier to prevent than to treat these darn diseases. So work with your veterinarian and be very vigilant about your tick prevention is the best
so
advice.
I have to ask, I got to ask this, right? which preventative do you recommend for ticks?
So I don't have a single one. There's lots of options now. And again, this tends to be, there's like 5 or 6 new ones every year, it feels like too. So the good news is we have options. So there are oral chewables, there are topicals, and then there are also the collars as well. So I think I would just recommend using some of the newer generation ones as opposed to the old-fashioned dips and things that we used to use, because they're just very broad and can have some side effects and some damage to your dog itself. Thankfully, the newer preventatives are really specific for ticks and arthropods. So to me, it just depends. The collars work well unless your dog goes swimming all the time, or the swimming all the time might wash off some of the topicals. So just work with your veterinarian. There are lots of options, and it depends on your dog's schedule, what you, some people don't like the liquid. Some dogs won't eat the chewable oral tablet. So just talk to your veterinarian and pick one that works best for you, and then still just be vigilant with regular tick checks, after a day outside or even in the yard. Go over those dogs and pick those ticks off as soon as they can, because they do have to be attached for a while to transmit those diseases. So if you can keep them from getting on and pull them off before they really have a big meal, those are your best chances.
So we've had a couple dogs get Lyme disease that they were on preventative, and I'm not going to name the names of those preventatives, but is there ever a chance of like the ticks becoming immune to certain tick preventatives, or is it just maybe they were less effective for whatever means? Like you said, maybe the dogs had been swimming and so
Yeah.
it washed some of the topical off. I mean, what's your input on that?
So it's likely the latter, that there
Okay.
was somewhere it didn't spread, or the dog was swimming, or that tick got on near the end of the, 4.5 weeks or 5.5 weeks, you were due for the next dose.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say anything's possible.
Okay.
But we don't have any widespread reports of resistance to the preventatives because, again, we have so many options. So if you feel that one isn't working well for you, I would just try another one. No reports of resistance or actual, even geographical, this is not working or this is working. But anything's possible. So just, again, do your regular tick checks. And if that happens, you can always contact the manufacturer. So one, so we can report it, so that we get as early notification as we can if there is a resistance developing. And they may work with you. You often have to prove that you gave it directly exactly as directed, but never hurts to work with your veterinarian and the manufacturer just to provide the information. And then, but again, because we have so many options, I would just change your strategy.
Okay. Do you recommend that in general, though, of maybe this month I do a chewable, the next month I switch that to the topical? Is there any advantage to changing the different methods?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
And probably don't recommend that.
Okay.
Because that, if there is resistance that might develop, that's going to hasten it because they've been exposed to everything.
Okay.
Right. So you probably just want to stick with option A. If you feel that's not working, then go to B. But no, I wouldn't do the buffet of preventatives because then I just don't feel like it's going to be really expensive, and there's no evidence that that's going to be more effective.
Mm-hmm. Is there any specific drug in the preventatives that we should look for that one of the best preventatives would have?
No, not off the top of my head. They're usually in a similar drug class, and a lot of times now we have the combo products. So it will kill fleas and ticks, and a lot of times it's combined with your heartworm prevention as well. So there isn't one encompassing drug that you need to look for. They're often in the same drug class, but sometimes attack from a slightly different angle. So just use something that is approved by your veterinarian.
Okay. Let's see. Anything else on the tick-borne initiative you want to touch on?
I don't think so. Just, again, be vigilant as a dog owner, and we're being vigilant as scientists and researchers as well, because we have a lot to learn, and I think we're learning again how these infections can be under the surface, but contributing to a lot of other health problems. So it's really important that we keep digging deeper and deeper into these diseases.
All right. Let's get to epilepsy. Where are you guys at with that?
Absolutely. So epilepsy is the most common medical neurologic disease in dogs. And unfortunately, almost a third of dogs with the disease, despite appropriate treatment, continue to have seizures. And this is just one that really affects quality of life for the dog and their owners and the whole family. You can learn to live with it, but it's distressing, obviously, to watch your pet go through that. So since 1995, the AKC Canine Health Foundation has invested almost $1.5 million to study this disease. Because again, it can happen in lots of breeds, lots of sizes of dogs.
I was reading recently on how important, or the relationship between the gut flora is with some of these different diseases, and I think epilepsy was one of them. Do you guys have any input on that, with that correlation?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, and it's really interesting and definitely a focus of study. We funded a few research projects looking at that. There's one specific genus of bacteria called lactobacillus that has been shown to be protective for In humans, things like depression, Alzheimer's, autism, and seizures as well. So we're looking, is that possible in dogs as well? So starting to look at that, again, just looking at what the population of bacteria is in the GI tract, and then how does that correlate, and maybe how does that directly affect the functioning of the nervous system. Similarly, we've looked at how diet can influence the function of the nervous system, whether that be directly affecting the bacteria, the microbiome in there, or a direct effect on the nerves. And it's interesting, we've studied a product called medium chain triglyceride oil, and it's part of the ketogenic diet, if you're not a little bit keto related there, but that's shown to reduce seizures in humans. And we're showing some promising results in dogs as well, whether it's given as an oil supplement or increased levels within a kibble food itself. The initial results have been good at showing a decrease in seizure severity and frequency. So again, work with your veterinarian if you have a dog with epilepsy to see if and how you should fit this in, but definitely some promising research results that this is going to be a nice adjuvant way to treat epilepsy in dogs. And I should say we're talking here about idiopathic epilepsy, which is what we term epilepsy we don't know of a cause. There's not a tumor, there's not liver dysfunction causing toxins to build up in the bloodstream. So there's no overt structural or metabolic cause for the seizures. We think it's a primary malfunction in the nervous system. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about idiopathic epilepsy here.
Would that be also classified as the reoccurring seizure, not maybe just the dog that has had 2 in their lifetime?
Absolutely. So there are various diagnostic criteria to reach the diagnosis of idiopathic epilepsy. We say it's a diagnosis of exclusion, which means we just have to say it's not this, it's not that, it's not that. So, okay, all we're left with is probably this idiopathic. And a single seizure or 1 or 2 is not enough. We really want recurrent seizures with no underlying cause.
Okay. And I think it was at your 2017 National Parent Club conference that one of the veterinarians talked about the study with epilepsy and the medium chain triglycerides. And I saw that building up, and I think it was shortly afterwards that Purina came out with the veterinary formula of the NeuroCare.
Right, right. So that has the increased levels in the food itself, and they have some nice internal science to demonstrate that. And then additional studies are ongoing to give it as, again, a supplement, like you can buy medium chain triglyceride oil at the health food store. So just looking at ways, what's the right dose, how often, how much effect is it going to have? So those are the things that the researchers still need to dig into.
Yep. I actually I get the powder form of it because the oil, and I put it into my coffee every morning.
There you go.
Because I used the oil, but it was just, it stayed separated. And then all of a sudden you take a gulp of this.
Yeah, maybe not so appealing
thing of oil. You're right. Yeah, I'll try the powder and it works better.
Most sporting dogs have a healthy appetite, but there are some out there that, they would be suspicious of various supplements. So that's where, again, it's nice to have the options of putting it in a kibble, having it in a liquid supplement, various ways. So we can get it into the dog, which is important for it to work.
So, and the relationship with the microbiota of the gut there and the lactobacillus that you mentioned, is it going to be helpful to give a probiotic like Flora every day of the dog's life?
So we don't know. Again, there are so many bacteria that live in the gut, and they each have different functions. So unfortunately, there isn't like one panacea product out there that's going to help with diarrhea and with epilepsy and with dental health and things like that. So researchers are looking at various individual bacterial species and how they might help. We might get there one day where we can put it all in one product, but we might not. So at this point in time, I think there's definite science proving the benefit of probiotics for various reasons. But which one, again, it kind of depends on your goals. So I'd probably still direct you to work with your veterinarian to see, exactly what product is best just for maintenance, for prevention, or if your dog has certain health problems that you want to focus on, which product and which bacterial strains are going to be best to help with that. And it can change over time too,
Right. And I know recently Purina's been adding prebiotics to a lot of the ProPlan formulas, and I would assume that has a lot to do with this reasoning and the relationship with the gut flora and the diets.
Right. You can think of those prebiotics as just food for the bacteria. So, we want to provide the right groceries to encourage growth of the best bacteria to then have the best health of the dog. So that's what those prebiotics are for, just because life is a competition there in the GI tract. And when we get sick, it's often because a, quote, bad bacteria overgrows. And, there's too many of those and not enough of the good bacteria. So the goal is always to find that balance and maximize the number of good bacteria, or just have the right relationship there, the right ratios. And so the prebiotics are absolutely just trying to tip things in that direction, provide the right ingredients so that those good bacteria flourish and therefore maintain optimal health.
You mentioned participating in research and the opportunities that we as the listeners and general dog-loving community can help with. And so like when I went to your website and I typed in, or I went down the scroll bar and I put in German wire hair pointers and Bracco Italianos, it was very general that I can help by submitting my dog's DNA. And if they were recently diagnosed with a disease, that there may be a trial for it, but none actually popped up for them. Is breed specific. But like when I put in golden retrievers, one popped up for them that was the food mediated DCM study. And that's been something that's obviously been a common concern in the canine industry everywhere for the last couple of years here. Can you touch on that a little bit?
On that study specifically?
Yeah, because it was for 3 breeds. I think it was golden retrievers, Dobermans. There's one more. Was it Schnauzer maybe?
I know, I'm going to have to think. Let me get there.
Okay.
So that we know is an absolutely pressing topic, and there's still just more questions than there are answers. So a lot of times when we're doing research, we pick out specific breeds. It may be because they're more prone to it, but it may also just be that they're more common, right? Like golden retrievers, my breed always comes up. And absolutely, we're prone to some diseases, but we also just know there's a lot of golden retrievers out there. So it's easier to recruit patients for our studies. And the reason researchers focus on one breed is just to narrow down the genetic noise, so to speak, right? So our breeds are genetically unique populations. And so if we can narrow down that focus, that just gets us again from the hayfield to maybe a hay bale to look for some of the underlying genetic issues there. So that's why we pick out specific breeds, or because that parent breed club knows that it's a concern for their breed, and so they really want to put their support behind those studies that could directly help their breed. And so at this point in time, we have a lot of associations with, and it's been, a lot of different terms have been thrown around for what it is in the diet that is triggering this heart disease in breeds that previously didn't have it. But we need to, the hard part is to demonstrate cause and effect, right? We know it's associated, but how exactly did it cause that result? And there's so many variables with food, right? The nutrient profile, the digestibility, how much you fed that dog, how big that dog is, what other supplements that dog took. So that's why it's really involved and really intense, and we still have a lot of work to do. We have the associations so that we as dog owners can be aware and try to avoid some of those associated ingredients, but exactly why and how it causes it, we have a lot of work to do to look into that. So that's why we're proud to help fund this clinical trial to really dig into that and screen. The benefit of this is they're looking prospectively or looking forward. A lot of times when you're just looking backwards, oh, my dog ate that diet and then developed this disease, there's a lot of opportunity for bias. Still good information, but right, people forget, and we have our own assumptions that might influence how we respond to questionnaires and things. So looking forward gives us a little bit stronger data to know that A happened before B. So this will be important information to get some more answers for this problem that really is affecting a lot of our big dogs.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least.
It's scary. It's okay. You can say that it's scary.
It's extremely scary.
Yeah.
Knowing that what we're putting, what some people are just diets, I guess, are being put into the dogs is what's ultimately leading to this DCM, the heart issue, is a very scary thing, because we trust, we trust, I guess, what motivates us in advertising or marketing, or what the friend tells you and what you read. And, for years, a long time ago, I was reading a website that I thought was reliable in telling you what to feed, just to find out it's a dentist giving the advice. And it's just shocking.
Right. So feeding your dog on one point seems so simple and it's so basic. And we do take it for granted. And we've made great progress with the pet food industry and the convenience of these commercial foods that we have. But it's still good. Consumer caution is always warranted. And really, my advice is always just look at your dog. How is your dog doing on that food? Because there isn't one right way to feed people or to feed dogs. Look at human nutrition too. There's people are very passionate about it, and there's lots of different ways to go about it. So again, look for trusted sources, use your consumer caution, look at how your dog is doing on that diet as far as skin coat, general health, energy, weight, all those sort of things. And the DCM, unfortunately, it's scary because it's been under the radar. We've been doing pretty well, and we don't have a great explanation for, is it a specific ingredient or just where it was harvested from or how it was presented to the dog. So there's pieces to pick apart there, but
right.
Be aware, don't panic.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big problem there is, a lot just don't know how to recognize a normal or what should be a good appearance in the dogs, don't you think? If how many dogs are overweight and we just don't really recognize that, or how do you know this is the optimal way the dog's coat should look? So
so work with your veterinarian, and I know there's so much to go over in that exam room that it's a challenge. And I'll admit, veterinarians, it's a challenge for us to fit weight and coat and all these sort of things in addition to your vaccines and your preventatives. There's just so much to go over. But really take the time, schedule an extra appointment if you need to, work with your veterinarian, let them know that you want to have this conversation and what's the best, how can you tell your dog looks the best. You can work with the breed club or just some trusted resources, maybe the breeder where you got your dog, or you have to trust your gut to some extent, but there are experts out there. It's usually not the person working at the pet store. I apologize, but
right.
Their intentions are good, but you want someone with some training and some experience. So just have those conversations, learn what's normal in your dog, learn how, ask when the veterinarian's doing an examination, what are you looking for there? Why are you looking at his ears or his toes? What should I look for at home? And once your veterinarian realizes that you are going to be an active pet parent and a partner in caring for your dog, most of them will welcome you on board so that you can catch things sooner and therefore have a better chance for maintaining optimal health.
So the next event that Canine Health Foundation, their next parent club conference, That's going to be, it's every other year, right? So it'll be
Correct.
2021.
Yep, coming up at the end of August in 2021, and they are
Okay.
usually held in St. Louis, since Purina is our main sponsor for the event. We often have it near their headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri. Given the current COVID culture, we are having contingency plans if we still need to remain virtual by that point in time. But planning is well underway, so just stay tuned to our website for more information, and we'll get that out as soon as details are finalized. Yeah, and again, it's a great opportunity to just interact with the researchers, with the scientists, with other breeders, other people that are passionate about dog health.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, you can. A lot of people ask questions, and somebody like me who likes to ask a lot of questions, it's really nice to be able to do that directly with those researchers.
Absolutely, and get
to figure out what's
trusted
going on.
Answer right from the source.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky enough, there could be a Cardinals game there that same weekend.
I have not made it to there, so.
What about the VetVine webinars that you guys have been doing lately?
Absolutely. So we have a lot of educational resources for dog breeders, dog owners, and even veterinarians as well. So if you visit our website, one of the drop-down menus is educational resources, and there you can find our Canine Health Bites webinar series. We work with VetVine as the vendor that provides the webinar space to provide a series of 1-hour webinars. And this year we have a few extra, again, because everything has gone virtual this year. They're really interesting. It's a wide range of topics, and I encourage you to attend one or look back as well. So it's challenging for the presenter because it's really designed for anybody, from the layperson up to the veterinarian as well. So there might be some heavy science in there that the dog owner might not understand, but we absolutely do our best to get some practical tips and tricks and tips in there. And you can ask questions as well of the presenter beforehand and in the chat box as well. So it's another nice opportunity to get good information directly from the researcher. And we do offer them live, but you can also go back usually within a few days after presentation. The video is posted. So we've got several years worth of webinars on there that you can view on demand. So that's a really nice resource that is provided courtesy of the AKC Canine Health Foundation, just to get this information out there. For veterinary professionals, we also have a dedicated page that gives you links to that, how to participate in research. So if you have a patient and the owner's asked, how can I get into a clinical trial, you can look that up really quick. Those webinars often count for continuing education credits for your veterinary license. And we also have a new newsletter called the Clinical Corner that will really pare down all of the great research that CHF is funding into those that are directly applicable to practice. So again, some things are still in the works and in development, but if it's something that can affect how you're going to treat that dog or advise that dog owner, we're pulling that apart and giving it directly to you so you can have that cutting edge information. And this is probably a good time to mention a wonderful resource that we've recently put out that is designed for dog owners, dog breeders, and veterinary professionals. And it's a white paper, just a good resource on a review of the state of genetic testing in dogs. So some background science so you can understand simple Mendelian inheritance versus some of the more complex inheritance patterns, what the genetic tests are looking for, how you can have good consumer caution to know what tests you need for your dog, and how you can shop for the best laboratory to get quality information and use those genetic tests appropriately, because it's such a booming science and a booming industry right now that it is getting a bit overwhelming for breeders, owners, and veterinarians. You know, those of us that graduated more than 5 or 10 years ago, we didn't really get this because the technology didn't exist. So we have to learn as well to make sense of it and help our clients and their dogs make the best use of it. So that you can find on our website. It's linked right from the homepage. And again, it's provided courtesy of the AKC Canine Health Foundation and the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals. And it's available for download for free. So I advise everyone take advantage of that.
Yeah, that will be an incredibly useful tool, because I know I've kind of been overwhelmed in the last year or so with all the different genetic test options that are available right now. And for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, so in German Wirehair pointers, we have there's a furnishings test. And I'm sure there's a lot of different labs that are carrying it, but we've always used this one lab. And so a dog that is going to produce what we would call slick, where it looks like a German short hair pointer, would be come back as a result of a little f, right? So it's going to hold that where they look like a short hair. And I sent in swabs to this lab testing both a sire and a dam that we were potentially going to be breeding in the future. And their results, even though they have full furnishings and coat, they look like German Wirehair pointers, they have a proper coat, they came back as little f themselves. And I was just like, I lost,
happen, right?
Yeah, like what just happened here?
Yeah.
And so it's stuff like that where it was a big wake up call of, we think, okay, I'm paying $60 for this DNA test and I trust I'm going to get the correct results back. And then it didn't. And I, of course I called and I said, something's wrong here.
Yeah. So, that's the good thing is I totally understand your frustration, and a lot of the counseling we as veterinarians find ourselves doing is, we understand it's frustrating. You're not alone.
Right.
But unfortunately, science is rarely 100%, right? So we try and make these tests as accurate as possible, but to reach 100% accuracy is not common. So there's going to be some inaccurate or incorrect results, or, again, it shouldn't and it doesn't happen very often, but it can. And so that's why you want to work with the test provider so that they have that data and they can then look, oh gosh, let's see how or where or why this happened and improve our testing or our science. And certainly, there can be, unfortunately, there is no governing body for these scientific tests, right? There's not like a...
Oh, there isn't?
No.
There's not like a FDA for...
Correct. Right.
Okay.
No, there is not, so you can have shoddy workmanship, right?
Okay.
Where the equipment or the procedures just aren't good. Those places are usually, I like to think not many of them exist, that most people have, good intentions and are doing their very best. So I think those sort of things will get weeded out, but there are differences in the process and the exact tests that are run even for the same disease. So, and then again, there's that little bit of variability with no test is going to be 100% accurate 100% of the time. So there are some initiatives, again, this resource that the AKC Canine Health Foundation, the OFA put out is designed to help you increase your consumer caution and your awareness. There's also an initiative called the Harmonization of Genetic Testing for Dogs, and you can find more information about that on our website. That is an attempt to self-regulate, get everybody at the table. So it's got veterinarians, breeders, and the genetic test providing companies. Can we sit at the table? How can we, amongst ourselves, try and come up with some minimum standards so that we get the credibility ourselves, but also as an industry, right? Just make sure we're putting out a good product. So those things are in the works, but this technology has just really exploded over the past few decades, maybe a little bit faster than a lot of us can keep up. So keep your good consumer caution hat on, and don't hesitate to ask questions, I guess, trust your gut. We also offer, there are consultation services. The AKC Canine Health Foundation has partnered with North Carolina State University to offer a genetic consultation service. So you can submit your form online, whether you're an owner, a breeder, or a veterinarian, with very specific questions. And then one of their genetic staff will get back to you. And provide you the right resources, or maybe some publications, or maybe a simple answer. But we've got some resources out there, but we are still learning. Like I said, the technology has just really exploded. So a lot of us being able to provide those clinical genetics counseling is just catching up.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like an overwhelming area, to say the least. And
It is.
fortunately in my situation, it was just a furnishings test. So it's not something, I was looking at the breeding possibilities for it, but it wasn't something that was going to be affecting them health wise. But yeah, if it had been something that was, this dog could produce cancer, that would have been a scary thing to not get the correct results back.
Right. And so I just recommend to try and have a holistic view. Try and step back. Don't get, there's a lot of different parts that go into making a good dog and a good breed and a good breeding plan. So, some of the traits and some of the tests are so devastating that it really does totally change your direction. But otherwise, it's just information, and it should be looked at in total with all the other information you have and how relevant that is to your dog and how much of a priority that is for your breed and your breeding program. So that's probably the best way to approach it right now. And you can get multiple opinions. You can repeat tests. So it's not for the faint of heart. It's not simple at this point in time. Right. But again, just try and have that holistic view and have a plan. And there are some resources out there. So just lean in and rely on those to reach your goals. Okay.
When we're looking at other ways that we can help and participate, you guys have the options to become a member of Canine Health Foundation, whether it be an individual or as a professional or a club.
Absolutely. So individual memberships, you will receive a copy of our quarterly newsletter. And for the club or veterinary clinic memberships, you'll get either a plaque that's suitable for indoor hanging, or a lot of the clubs like one of those vinyl banners that you can put either in your training building or at your annual shows to demonstrate your commitment that you're a member of the AKC Canine Health Foundation and demonstrate your commitment to improving canine health. So membership is a nice, easy way to demonstrate that commitment and then also get regular communications from us as well.
Okay, awesome. Another option is the bricks at the Purina Event Center at Purina Farms. You guys have what's called, is it the Walk of Champions, where you can...
There's a Walk of Champions, which is for champion dogs, and there's a Path of Honor, which can be for people or dogs with titles or without and things like that. So it's a wonderful at the Purina Event Center in St. Louis, Missouri. The walkways, you can purchase an engraved brick to honor or memorialize a person or a pet, and that's a nice way. It's a neat gift for the holidays if you want, and just a nice way to really honor those special people and dogs in our lives. And they're cool. Have you been there? Have you seen that in person? I have. Yep. And so it's a challenge. We can't pinpoint on the grid where your brick will be. But, right. Yeah, but when I'm walking on it, I do look down and I do read the bricks. Absolutely. And they say in honor of, and I think what a fantastic way to have a memorial for your pet, to have a brick done of them. So, and that's a story behind each brick. We know there's a story behind each brick too, right? Absolutely. That makes us think of our own dogs. And I think, is that $100 to buy one of those? Correct. Yeah. And then let me see. A significant portion of that goes directly to the AKC Canine Health Foundation to support research. Awesome. And another easy way to help with the Canine Foundation is simply by feeding your dogs the awesome and best food there is out there. So the Purina Parent Club Partnership Program, and actually Ann Vicklin, who's the Director of Confirmation for Purina, she serves as one of the board members. So I love that close relationship between the company and CHF. Yeah, Ann is wonderful, and our relationship with Purina is also really helpful. And again, I want to calm any concerns, like Purina doesn't dictate or influence our research. but we just both have such common goals of quality science and improving the health of dogs that we work together really nicely. And the Purina, the Parent Club Partnership Program, was started in 2002. And since then, it's raised over $8 million for canine health research, as you said, just by feeding your dog. So it's great. So you do have to be a club member, but then so you just scan AKC codes for eligible products, and then 10% of the value of that product goes to this donation program. Half of it goes to the donor advised fund for your club at the AKC Canine Health Foundation, and half of it goes directly to the club for health research, education, rescue efforts, like your health clinics, your breed rescue, scholarship programs from the parent club. So it's just such a win-win. It's a really great program.
And in order to become a member, people have to either be a breeder or personally own 5 dogs or more, and that'll get you to become a Purina Pro Club member. And so, right. And if somebody needs help signing up for that, contact me. I'm happy to help you do so.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and it's easy. Once you buy the food, so you go into your favorite food store, or if you buy from somewhere online, you can either scan in your receipt or take a picture of it and upload it, just like you would be sending an email to somebody and uploading a photo to that email. Same exact concept. And it used to be cutting out the weight circles, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many bags of dog food my husband would throw away, and I'd scream, that was like $7.50 I would be getting back right there.
Yeah, it's switched to high tech recently, so it's just the upload.
It's
there.
Awesome. It's so nice. And there's, you automatically are put into this program. So it doesn't take off money that comes back to you when you submit your receipts. It's additional money that Purina gives to the National Breed Club and AKC Canine Health Foundation. So, but when you are a member, you can when you turn in your receipts, you can redeem it for things like a Visa debit card, some of the Pro Plan swag, and if you're a breeder, you get free puppy kits that you can send home with all your new litter. So it's an awesome program, and
win. So.
Yep, absolutely. And I love, it's a company that supports not only research like this, the health research and education, but it's also, they're supporting our events. They're going to our field competitions. They're at the dog shows. They're helping the breeders out and the rescue organizations. So it's a pretty great
they're
company.
Really, and a lot of their, again, they're just in the trenches, I guess is the best phrase I can think of. And they have ambassadors like you. They understand. They're out there, a lot of the staff and ambassadors are breeders themselves and competitors themselves. So they understand what the challenges are that we as dog owners and dog breeders are facing. So.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. And then what I'm going to be doing, I've partnered up with Canine Health Foundation. You guys do calendar sales every year, or donations for calendars. And so a way to support Canine Health Foundation, if you go to www.akcchf.org/birddogbabe, you have the option to designate to one of 3 programs, either the Epilepsy, the Hemangiosarcoma, or Tick-borne disease. And if you make a donation, I will be mailing you out a calendar for Canine Health Foundation. And my personal dog Merritt is Mr. September. So and it's a beautiful calendar. I've had several of the calendars in the past, and you guys do a great job with that, and nice to see the new dogs every month and promote breeding healthy dogs and owning healthy dogs.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful resource, and it's just nice to, have another beautiful dog picture on the wall.
Absolutely.
So congratulations to Mr. September.
Yes. All right. So, and those are going to be, I think I'm going to be shipping those out around mid November, but you can start making donations at any time.
Absolutely. We appreciate all the support. I'll add one more option that a lot of people like to take advantage of to help support canine health research and the AKC Canine Health Foundation. We do have a tribute program. So if you make a donation in honor or in memory of, again, it can be a dog or a person, we will send a special card to the person that you designate saying that Gene Smith made a donation in honor of Fifi. And it's really nice. A lot of veterinary clinics use that. Again, because you're going to send a sympathy card, but just how can we help future generations of dogs at the same time? And even just friends and dog clubs will use it because it's a really nice way to pay it forward at an otherwise sad time.
Nice, personalized as well. That's a great idea. I love that.
So those are very available as well. Now, lots of ways, again, we just have lots of resources on the website for supporting research, participating in research, learning the results from that research. So take some time and explore, reach out if you have any questions, and we'll do our best to get you the right information.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for joining me today and going through these important topics and issues that are affecting a lot of our bird dogs. It's good stuff to know and important for us as breeders and owners to stay up on.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and I just thank all of you that support canine health research and healthier dogs. There's a lot of work to do, but I'm always encouraged. There's a lot of really intelligent people out there answering these tough questions and really working very hard to improve the health of our dogs. And so I really appreciate everybody working together because we are making progress, and we couldn't do it without each of you. So thank you.
Sharon, how can is Canine Health Foundation on social media that we can follow, or how can we get updates on what's going on?
Absolutely. We do have an active Facebook page, so you can search for us there. If you're active on LinkedIn, we do put a lot of our scientific publications on there as well. Okay. So it's, just search for us, AKC Canine Health Foundation, Inc. You'll find us there. So, or you can always, the links are on our homepage as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sharon.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something from the content, please share it with your friends. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on whichever platform you're listening from. Check out the show notes for links to references from this episode, as well as info on how to connect through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you're loving this podcast and want to support the production and content, please consider becoming one of my Patreon patrons. Being a patron connects us more on a personal level, where I'm able to help answer questions and give advice. My husband William and I have bred, owned, and trained AKC Master Hunters, Field Champions, NAVDA VCs, and AKC Show Champions. We're excited to not only share what we've learned, but also listen from previous and future episode guests for additional content. Go to patreon.com/thebirddogbabe and $5 per month and you're in. Through the Patreon platform, 5% is donated towards conservation, and an additional 5% is donated to the AKC Canine Health Foundation. Until next week, bird dog babes, keep them versatile.